Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is manhood and masculinity. I am your host, Desmond Black, and the people that sipping and tripping with me today is Mr. Anthony Dale, Mr. Joey Chandler, and the Snowman. Mr. Dale, your last name was Dudley? Yeah, Mr. Dale Dudley. How you guys doing today, and how was your week so far?
Very
I'm
good.
I spent some time
Good.
earlier today with the love of my life. So
That's
pre-Valentine's fun. So I'm fantastic.
I have to say,
That's
my
good.
dad's CB radio handle when I was growing up in the 70s was the Snowman. So this is
I
bringing
love
back some memories of driving in station wagons across the Midwest with snow, and he'd be breaker 19. This is the Snowman. Come back.
You know what?
Nice.
This nickname was given to me once upon a time as an insult because my last name is Snow. I decided to turn it into a brand.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's how your brand is created. It's born by Okay. Well, on this platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. And today, I just want us to have an authentic conversation. But before we get into today's topic, we'll start with the Snowman. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what you do for a living.
I'm called the Snowman because my last name is Snow. I am Brian Snow, originally from Chicago. I've been a sportscaster for some 30 years, as well as a voiceover artist, and I am also host of a radio show and a podcast. I have a wonderful family, and one best part about me, besides my family, I kick cancer in the ass.
That's good. That's powerful right there. Congratulations on that. So what's the name of your podcast, and where can we find it?
Snowman in the Morning is the name of the show, and you can find it on YouTube and all of your favorite radio outlets. We're on the air from 10 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday, and that is possibly going to change beginning in March because I got so much more stuff to add to it.
Gotcha. Okay. Anthony, a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do for a living.
Sure. So I'm Anthony Dell. I am originally from Jersey, a Jersey boy. I am a combat Marine. Spent most of my life in the Marine Corps around the country, and then back here at home in public policy and being an elected official. Here recently, I decided to leave all that behind and start my own wine company. And so I own a wine brand called Fatherhood Wines, where we sell in every state across the country. And we have a couple of wine bar concepts opening in the DC metro area. But more than any of that, I am the father of 5 amazing young men. And I said 5 boys. So you know what my life is like having these 5 young men. But they are what brings me so much joy each and every day, and which is the reason why I started this company, to really showcase fatherhood in a way that it has not been showcased before.
Okay, nice. Love that. Joey?
My name is Joey Chandler. I live in Reno, Nevada. I am the founder of a business called Certain Growth Solutions, where I help small business owners create alignment between their values, their goals, their plans, and their actions. And what I find is that helps people grow their business without burnout. I'm a skier, photographer, and I have one 18-year-old son.
Nice. Now, as myself, my name is Desmond Black. I'm the proprietor and of the Sipping and Tripping podcast. It's coming up on 2 years. I want to say in June. I have 4 kids. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And So my apologies. 1 second. I just gotta get the laptop charger. 1 second.
And Anthony, as you are a boy dad, I'm a girl dad mostly. I have 3 daughters and I have 1 wonderful son. And all my kids are nuts. All my kids pick on me, and all my kids make me laugh so hard my sides burn out.
I like to say my kids are terrorists because they try to find ways to terrorize me each and every day. But it's joyful.
Hey, that no matter what the age, that's what kids are supposed to do. They're supposed to terrorize the daylights out of you. But
Yeah.
as a father, I wouldn't have it any other way. I would not have this any other way.
And I'm still mystified.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, Anthony, you're breaking up a little bit, man. You may have to jump on and jump back in again because you're breaking up a little bit. See, this is when men get together, all the problems try to show up.
Hey, ain't that the truth? It's crazy how it works sometimes.
When men get together, I think the universe realizes it's very, very powerful, so they try to do everything to disrupt it. But we ain't being disrupted today.
It's crazy. It seems like that's wild. I give them a minute to come back in. I mean, things happen sometimes, but it just sucks when you trying to conduct business and it happens.
From a 30-year broadcast veteran, been there, done that. or shall I say, to use one of my wrestlers' favorite lines, been there, destroyed that.
Got you. You can hear everything fine, Joey?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess I'll get to the first part, and then whenever Anthony is able to come back, he'll just join us. So describe this chapter in your life right now and tell us what title you will give it. We'll start with the snowman.
Redemption. Because I was about to check out in 2018. And then I met Jody, my beautiful wife. And then we were thrown every curveball and knuckleball you can think of. I had blood clots in both my lungs. I had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I've lost a couple of other body parts. And I was supposed to be bound to a wheelchair. I'm not. I wasn't even supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to reach age 50 after all the stuff I've been through. And yet I'm going to be 54 in July, and I'm celebrating every day.
That's powerful. I love that. Joey?
Yeah, I think it would be grounded in growth. I've gone through a few of my own challenges. We had some challenges with my son, but the past year or so, we've gotten really grounded, and looking forward to a bunch of growth personally and professionally. And it's really coming down to about having systems and just taking baby steps each and every day to just keep moving forward.
Got it. Now, what we talked about, Anthony, was I said, describe.
Here we go with the stuff again, folks.
Yeah, connection problems or something. Trying to see if I should just go.
It's funny. I was doing a game in I was doing a game one day in Kansas City, one night in Kansas City, and I had my headphones and my microphone with me, and I was about to plug into my recorder, and the microphone fell apart.
Oh wow. It's crazy. I just started my spiritual journey, right? So I like to equate things like this to the devil. The devil said, you're not gonna do something that you like to do. You enjoy doing it. Oh no, I'm gonna take that away from you. So, we still pushing forward. So we can't let him win.
This is more like the universe saying, hey, there's things for us to still learn and grow. That's what's happening.
Yep.
That's okay, so I'm not sure if he'll come back, so we'll just push forward for now. Next question is, how do you uphold the image of what a man's supposed to look like during a dark time in your life? We'll start with Joey.
So I'm a core values guy. My whole business is helping people identify and clarify their core values and put it to use so that they create alignment in their business and their life. And so when I hit a dark time and things aren't going well, I go back to my values, and my values are connection, curiosity, and fun. And the best story that I have for that is a couple years ago, I fell rock climbing and broke my leg in 3 places. So I'm sitting in the ER, just moaning and groaning. You can imagine, like it's broken by the ankle and up by the knee. So no matter where I sat, I was like in pain, and I'm sitting there groaning, and it was all kind of a mess. And my son, who was 16 at the time, he said, "Dad, which one of your core values is missing right now? And I, of course I wanted to kind of give him a smack, and he, I looked at him and he knew he had me, because he's always like, well, you always say if there's a problem, one of your core values is missing, and there's a problem here. And, I took a deep breath, and I clearly wasn't having any fun, but when I looked at him and his little smirk, I started, could relax a little bit. I got curious about like what life would be like when I, what would I learn about life from having a broken leg that I wouldn't learn by having 2 healthy legs? And then I just started connecting with people. So I got through there. It still took 6 months of recovery, and it all kind of sucked. But in that moment, my little son, Dad, never forget it. Never forget that smirk. And so that's what I do. And I think just in terms of reflecting manhood, I think the ability to have a system and be grounded and take a breath and get support when you need it and then take action, to me, is an example of manhood. And that little moment summarizes that for me.
Love that. Snowman, you remember the question, or you got it?
There are 2 things I lean on the most: my wife and laughter. Because my wife has been the only woman that I've been with that has been able to pull a genuine laugh from me when I'm in a very dark place. Like, I could be sitting here in front of this microphone trying to conjure up something, and she'll just walk by and do or say something that would have me in a fit of laughter. She does it she's done it for 8 years, man. She does it every single time. And one of my favorite video games is Pac-Man.
Love Pac-Man.
Look, I'm old. I grew up with Pac-Man and the like. She walked by here one afternoon, and I was sitting here crying because I couldn't solve a problem. She put her arms around me and says, "Think Pac-Man." And then all of a sudden, I feel... And that's that. I'm sitting there laughing my head off. And she says, you're the best at what you do, right? Yes. Okay. Then keep proving it. And the person I think of the most that did that for me at first was my dad.
Right.
Dad would do something so goofy in the house that I'd run upstairs and bury my head in my pillow laughing. That's one of my core values, just like Joey, is fun. And for me, that's a lot of laughter.
Right.
So whenever my wife or one of my friends, and they hear me down in the dumps, they'll do something absolutely crazy and they'll bring me out of a funk. And holding on to the man's values is holding on to your values. Holding on to what you truly believe in. And that's my example of manhood: continuing to stay grounded in what you believe and what you believe in, continuing to stay in your core values when nobody else outside of your circle gives you a chance.
Right. Yeah, and for me, I just want to piggyback off of what you said. You basically took the words out of my mouth. It's just like, you got to stay grounded. I just went through some dark times, like almost all of last year. And I promised myself I wasn't going to bring that negativity into 2026. Well, it seeped through a little bit, but I had to remember my purpose. I had to remember why I do what I do, right? And my end goal is to be strong, to show that masculinity, to be that leader for my kids. So my kids is like my driving force, right? If I want my kids to grow up to be good, strong men and women, because I have a daughter, then I have to show them the way. I have to be their leader so they can in turn lead others. So they keep me grounded. So I can't lose sight of that. So even in dark times, I had to pull myself together. I had to dig deep, do some self-reflection, some decompression, and I just need to keep them in the forefront. I had to, I walk around and I envision them and I say, this is why I do it. This is my purpose. And I can't let them down, right? So I have to keep doing what I'm doing. So that's for me. That's how I will uphold the image of a man.
Speaking of
just knowing
upholding,
my purpose.
This little one right here is my spirit animal. This is Lucy. Lucy, since I met her 8 years ago, has been glued to my hip. This is my wife's dog before. This was Jody's dog before I met her. Ever since I met her, she's been glued. She's been glued to me. And I'll tell you something about this little one right here. When I came home first from having blood clots in both my lungs, I walk in the house and this one is running around, circling me, saying, "Daddy's home, Daddy's home." And then when I came back from my cancer surgery, besides my wife and my kids greeting me, this little one right here, and she's really helped me. There's another core value of a man, not being afraid, I should say, to reach out to folks, or in this case, me reaching out to this little one and grabbing her spirit, helping keeping you going.
And that's the thing. I can see the love. She hasn't taken her eyes off you yet. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I like to tell people that, like, misfortunes in life are not failures, right? They're just lessons. Because they only become failures when you give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as you continue to push through, and as long as you work hard, and as long as you are still driven, it's a lesson. It's not a failure, right? What are your thoughts on that, Joey?
I think when you're willing to learn, I think that's when things become a lesson. Because you can have things that don't. I mean, there's things that we don't learn from, and we keep going, and no matter what, they're still there. But when you can take a moment to make a habit of learning from things, I think that's when you can turn failures into opportunities for growth. I mean, they definitely teach you something. They definitely, when you struggle, you definitely can learn something, but it doesn't happen by accident. I think you got to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to learn something from this. Like when I breaking my leg, I was like, okay, what am I going to learn from having a broken leg that I'm not going to learn from having two legs? I guess I just think it takes a little intention. It just doesn't show. If it showed up by everyday accident of people working through stuff, we'd all be much wiser than we are, and or at least I would. And so I think it does take some intentionality. Some saying, okay, well, like, how can I bring my best self to this situation that's not, not the best.
Right. So I heard somebody say that expectations are the killers of experience. Now, when I say that, what comes to your mind?
Expectations are the killers of experience.
Right.
Who told this lie?
Yeah.
Who told this lie?
I like quotes. Yeah, I like quotes. I heard that before, and it kind of resonated with me a little bit. But elaborate on that.
That's a lie.
You feel like that's a lie. Okay.
Because I was expected to die. I was expected to be put 6 feet in the ground before age 50. I killed that.
Got you.
Well,
beat cancer and came all the way back from it.
But Snowman, I think you're agreeing with Desmond there. He's saying expectations are the killer of dreams, and sounds like people expected you not to make it, but you got past those expectations. Is that right?
Yep, I blew them all up.
So I would say that there's some bet. I think it's a little bit of back and forth. Because when you expect to be a great dad, or you expect, like you set yourself up to do my very best. And then of course the kids come and everything changes. But you set that goal for yourself, and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. And then the challenge, of course, is to make adjustments, learn, and grow along the way. I think when you stay attached to those expectations, regardless of the situation, is when things get funny. But I think you start off like, I'm going to take this woman out on a great date, or I'm going to run a 10K at a certain pace. That's an expectation. It may or may not happen.
Right. So when I asked that, what was going through my mind was, sometimes we set unreasonable high expectations, right? Sometimes we be like, oh, we expect this, and then when it doesn't happen the way we envision it, our lives crumble sometimes, right? So I think a lot of us need to live a little bit more freely, and just, for the experience purpose, like, just live life. Don't set limitations or don't put a cap on your life. Like, just live and breathe a little bit. That's what I meant by, like, expectations, because sometimes you expect something and it doesn't happen the way you want it to. Sometimes people get discouraged, and then they just never pursue it anymore. So
Very true. Very true.
That's true, but I would say and there's decent evidence, like especially nowadays when there's so much stress and so much uncertainty, you kind of have to have a big game, like setting a big goal. It helps you wake up in the morning and cut through all the noise of all the stuff that's there. So I would add, it's not so much reducing your expectations, it's celebrating what you accomplished along the way and acknowledging how you grew, even if the results were not what you wanted.
I can honestly say in the last 3.5 years, that's been my weakness, not celebrating little daily victories, but now it's becoming stronger. Now it's turning into a strength so I can keep the negative spirit away from me. Because especially when the roles in my household have reversed since cancer. I now take care of the house, and my wife's the breadwinner while I'm still looking for work. I'm pushing all my funding options whenever I do a stream. Now, every day I take care of something around the house, I celebrate it.
right,
I celebrate it, and I'm happy because I'm walking, I'm moving around the house. I'm not at full strength yet, but I get closer every day. So that's something that I had to learn to do and like really dive into all my victories. Do I rest on my laurels after the victories? No, I still got a lot more. I still got a lot more to do. That was the key for me. Not
right,
always focusing on I didn't get everything done, but celebrating what I did get done. That I
right.
can honestly admit it loud was a big weakness for me
Right.
until now.
Yeah, and that's powerful, because that's one thing my therapist, been telling me. Is you got to celebrate the small victories. Because for me, if I set, like, in my planner, I might put 10 things. If I don't get at least 8, I used to be like, oh, that's a failure. That's how I used to look at things. But you have to celebrate those small victories, right? Because at least you're doing something. And even if you only do 2 things off your list, that's still progress. You're still moving in a forward motion. So that's something I'm working on
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, and there's actually good evidence. When you celebrate, it triggers dopamine in your brain, and
Right.
it creates what's called a sense of self-efficacy or I can do itness. So when you
Right.
acknowledge, like, yesterday I went to go see a musical performance from a guy from Ghana. Somebody called me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to go?" Not my style of music, not just not my world. And I was like, "Yes." And so I wake up every day and I ask myself always, "What can I celebrate about yesterday?" And I've been doing that for a couple of years. And one thing to add to that helps is, what did I learn from that?
Right.
So you can celebrate whatever it is, but then if you say, what can I learn from that it kind of brings it from the past into the future, and it acknowledges your growth. Because if you said, I learned something from it, you now are a new person. And that just gives you a sense of like, hey, I can do whatever it is I got to do today.
I like it. I like it.
The other thing that's helped me is knowing and hearing the trust from my wife. Doesn't matter what doesn't matter what it is. She's working on her business as I am working on mine, and whenever she comes to me and says, "Can you help me like edit something, or can you figure out how we can put these 2 pieces together?" I didn't realize until recently that was her entrusting me with something with that's one of my strengths, and
Right.
media is my big strength.
Right.
Or her just trusting me to get stuff done around the house.
Right.
I was so afraid to do it for the longest time. And the other thing I've really opened back up is just like going places with her, because I was so afraid my body would act up on the road and I wouldn't be able to get to a restroom in time, or we wouldn't be able to get home in time. Now that's beginning to change, and I'm getting happier every day. And like you said, Joey, it triggers a dopamine in your brain. When you do something positive, it tends to fester and it tends to grow. And I'm finding that now. At the top of this year, I started to find that.
Right. And that's the thing. Sometimes, like, it's a lot of things being a man, right? We deal with manhood and masculinity. We're afraid to turn to our women, right? I don't know what it is. It's just a lot of men shy away from it. We just feel like we got it all figured out, or at least mentally we want to have it all figured out. And sometimes we have to show that vulnerability. That's a key word. That's a strong word. A lot of men is afraid to admit is vulnerability. We have to have that trust in each other. That's what makes us complete in a relationship. Because I tell people all the time, no matter what it is on earth, like if you're breathing, we all want validation. We all want that security, right? A lot of men say, I don't want to be validated. Well, I don't need no security. I am the security. But that's not the truth. We sometimes as men, we run and hide from the truth, right? And we all human. So we all have these human characteristics and traits.
Guilty. Big time. Guilty.
So, okay, let's go here. What are some challenges you face being a man?
Man, where do I begin?
Well, Snowman and I clearly have hair challenges. We'll just say that. let's just get down to the basics. We got trouble with hair.
I got a funny story about this. This was a dare because when I moved back home to my parents' house in 2001, I had an afro going on and I had a hat covering it. And my mother said, if you don't take care of your hair, I'm going to shave it off for you. So I turned to my dad, and my dad had this evil smile on his face. And he goes, what do you need? Can I borrow $20? Here, go get some supplies. So I walked down to Walgreens down the way from my house. I came back in. Dad's sitting there waiting on it. And my mother stopped me. She says, where you been? I went to Walgreens. She says, what are you doing in Walgreens? I said, what was your last sentence to me? She says, if you don't take care of your hair, I'm going to shave it off. I opened the bag and I showed her my shaving supplies and I said, I'll save you the trouble. And plus my favorite basketball player is Michael Jordan. So I had to copy the look.
The GOAT, the greatest of all time. These young people will tell you, these young people will tell you LeBron. It's not even close. It's not even in discussion.
Desmond, there's a part of my show called Bronzexual Confessions where I let loose on the Bronzexuals every Wednesday, because every Wednesday there is a message waiting for me in the form of, and I know you've heard this, I know y'all have heard this, of when are you going to acknowledge LeBron's greatness? My answer is simple. Never.
Yeah, never.
I mean, when you've been spoiled for 13 years, I was spoiled by Michael Jordan for 13 years in my hometown. Yeah. There is no one else.
Right.
Yeah. See, I grew up in Detroit, so I got my 2 years of beating LeBron, or beating Michael Jordan.
Oh, y'all, you know what, Joey? I respect and love those Detroit Pistons because Chuck Daly was a mastermind.
Yep.
Chuck Daly was a mastermind. And it also shows, speaking of manhood, here you go. How do you progress when you run into an opponent that A, won't go away, Detroit Pistons, 1988, or B, leave you alone, Detroit Pistons, 1989? What can you do to take yourself or your team to the next level? It took Michael 3 tries. 88 lost in 5 games, 89 6 games, 1997 games, and 91 he finally got it right. So you know what helps a man? And this is a perfect example. You know what helps a man? When he's able to help himself, when he's able to solve a problem that kept knocking him upside the head, and when he finally gets it right and busts through that particular finish line, it moves him on to the next challenge. Because so many times that as men, we look way far ahead. Hey, guilty as charged. Every day I'm guilty as charged. Like, I have a goal to turn over $1 billion a year in business within 5 years. And I got people telling me you won't be able to do that at your advanced stage. And my response is, oh yeah, watch this. But when you get over that first hump and you have people cheering you on, more to the point, when you have your family cheering you on that have believed in you 10 toes down and just are there for you no matter what, you know what kind of dopamine that triggers?
Right.
That's hope. That's nerve. And that prompts you to gain more knowledge for the next mountain you're going to knock down. Not climb, knock down.
Right.
I will say, in terms of LeBron being great, his podcast with Steve Nash is awesome. Have y'all listened to that?
Yep.
I haven't.
I find it
impressed.
You're not impressed? Like the way they break stuff down? Like it's just fun seeing two guys that know basketball that well to break down.
I had Jim Durham and Johnny Kerr for 13 years. They broke it down for me. And yeah. Jim Durham's my favorite announcer. So I had that.
Anyway, right. I think the one thing I think has been amazing about LeBron is he's however many years he's been in the league under high scrutiny, high social media.
I'll give you that.
You know, like a level of attention and detail, or like focus. That I mean, like, can you imagine if the Pistons had all the social? Like, there was TikTok when the Pistons were going. It would have been bad.
Can you imagine Michael Jordan with all the social media? Can you imagine Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Julius Erving with all the social media? All we have in the newspapers, and at the time, CBS Sports.
Yep. Yeah.
That's all we had. That's all we had at the time.
Yeah. So I do think that's you have to. I think this goes for kids too. That the challenge of dealing with social media, challenge of the never-ending, just relentlessness of always being on and being worried about putting yourself out there because something's going to get copied,
right,
and all over the line. I think that has to weigh on people, and to some degree,
it does. It does.
So my thing is, since we was talking about LeBron and Jordan, this thing nowadays it's not even basketball no more. So I have not watched a basketball game like in months because it's just not basketball no more. You know, they call everything a foul now, and it's egregious to me. You know, nowadays basketball is all about stat stuffing. You know, and in the 90s, you know, it was competition. It was different. They allowed a little physicality. Now, if you whisper in somebody's ear, they call it a foul.
They call it a foul.
To me, it's like, how did you glorify that?
If you give them a little bit of a shoulder, they're calling. If you give them a little bit of a shoulder, they're calling a flagrant. And Lord knows what will happen if you're suspended in midair and you knock over somebody. They're kicking you out of the game. It's not basketball anymore.
And then when they flop it and they open their eye and peek and see if they're being watched, that's not basketball.
No, it's not.
Okay, so
go ahead, Joey.
So I along with living in Detroit, I also lived in the Bay Area for a while. So I got the Golden State Warriors, and the level of the skill that when you watch Steph play, the skill that man has to do what he does, and the work that it took to do that, like it may not be what it was, but the man, I'm like, you all watched it with like the Olympics, right? When you watched the thing on Netflix, like that, and everybody was like, Steph is our guy. Like the whole country was like, Steph's on our team. That's how we felt with the Warriors. And so, yeah, basketball's changed, but everything has changed. And but the fact that those guys can drop threes and do what they do, you got to give them props for that.
So I heard this one thing. I say they're talented, but as far as giving them credit as a basketball player, it's hard for me to do that. You know, I'm saying, like, I watch them. I'm like, okay, yes. Do they know the game? Can they play the game? Yes. But in today's basketball, I just can't.
I'll say this about Steph. I'll tell you the difference between Stephen Curry and LeBron James. Stephen Curry has changed the game forever, just like Jordan did before him. Abdul-Jabbar with his skyhook, Magic Johnson with his passing, Larry Bird with his shooting. You know what Steph did? He took an anomaly, which is the three-point shot, and he turned it into a weapon.
Yeah, it's crazy what he could do. You know, just the other day I just seen on YouTube. I don't know if I think it was the All-Star game or something like that. I don't even know. Like it was like Durant, they had LeBron, they had all your big guns at the midcourt trying to shoot a three, and he the only one that made it. He made more than one, and nobody else did. I'll say that's crazy. And if you ever been on a basketball court and you stand in midcourt, that's a distance. And
that is
not a big guy.
That is 47 feet away. And when you even think of trying to knock down a shot like that, Your arms go
Right.
limp, your legs go
Yep.
limp, and you look at the basket and you're going, there's no way I'm going to knock this down from here. And here's this kid, 6'3", 200 pounds, just walks up and go, watch this, and just flings it. And he's turning the other way and running before the ball even gets to or through the basket.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But see, I think this comes back to celebration. Like, I 100% celebrate the bad boys, and I 100% celebrate Jordan at the time. And I think you got to celebrate when people rise to the level of excellence in their time. You have to celebrate them. Like you said, you said expectations was the killer of dreams. I think comparison is a greater killer of dreams. So
I agree with that.
I agree.
I agree with that. I agree.
And plus, and speaking, staying with that, it's like Jordan and LeBron play two different positions. It's like in no other sport would you do that. You're not going to compare a receiver to a quarterback. It's just unheard of.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. And it's like every 10 years they always look for the next Jordan, and that's just what it is.
Be another Michael.
They said it about Vince Carter. They said it about Brady, and I love them.
Tracy
now
McGrady,
I will say Kobe was like neck and neck with Jordan. I will say that. Like he was, if it was on a scale, it's Jordan at 10 and Kobe was a 9. I'll put 9.5. I will say that. That's just my opinion.
The difference for MJ, even though Kobe basically copied Jordan and Kobe said as such, God bless you, Kobe Bryant. You know what made Jordan different? I had a chance to meet his airness. Right. And his hands could palm my head.
Right.
My hand stretches out to here, add a little bit of room, and you got MJ's hand. That's the difference between Kobe, and that's the lone difference between Kobe and MJ. Kobe was great with his hands. I'll give you a perfect example. And Craig Hodges, who's another friend of mine who played with the Bulls for 4 years, said it. When Kobe's going to the line to shoot 2, Michael's going to the line to complete a 3-point play. And that's because of the size of his hands.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that, man. I miss those days a little bit, to be honest with you. I'm mad they took it away. They used to have the ESPN Classics where they had like all the games, like every week they used to do it, but they don't do it no more. It's like, it's crazy. But I used to watch it,
That's because they found out I got them all on my computer. I'm just kidding.
That's crazy.
I will say this to Joey. When it came to the Pistons and the Bulls, you knew they were the next great rivalry after the Lakers and the Celtics, interconference rivalry. You had the Pistons and the Celtics for a couple of years. The Bulls were right there on the ascension, on the way up, but they had to go through the Detroit Pistons, just like the Pistons had to go through the Celtics, and the Sixers had to go through the Celtics.
Right.
The Pistons and Bulls were destined for a great rivalry. And when I say destined, you had the Pistons, you had Isaiah Thomas, you had Joe Dumars, Buda Edwards. For a while, you had Adrian Dantley, and then you had Mark Aguirre, another Chicago product. The Bulls, their makeup. You had Michael Jordan, the emergence of Scottie Pippen, the emergence of Horace Grant, and then their backcourt shooting with Craig Hodges.
Kerr.
Later BJ Armstrong, and the man that helped win them their first championship, John Paxson. So you had basically a perfect match. The difference, the Pistons had a 2-year head start with Chuck Daly. The Bulls had to wait until Phil Jackson ascended to their head coach position. And then when Phil Jackson got Michael to trust his teammates, it was on.
Right. Yeah, I remember those days, man. I was born in the late 80s, but
so you get it. So you get it.
Absolutely. If I may, I like to circle back to the question I asked before about what are some challenges we face as big men.
Keeping the momentum going, living up to expectations that others place on you instead of your own. Mention keeping momentum going, and most men that go through something very traumatic live in absolute fear. I am one who does. I'm coming out of that. You live in fear because you think one wrong move and you'll lose everything.
Right.
I have never confessed this aloud, but since cancer, I've lived in that fear until very recently. And it took a long time for me to talk myself out of it. to pull myself out of that hole. Jody has helped me. My wife, my kids have helped me. My friends have helped me. Whenever I tell them, look, if I don't find a job soon, or if I don't get a big donation soon from my GoFundMe so I can get a car and take some pressure off my wife, I'm afraid I'm going to lose her. And Jody looks at me like, are you kidding? She'll go, are you telling them every day about what you have going on? Yes. Are you doing your show every day? Yes. Then you're keeping yourself calm. You're learning to get about the house again. You haven't cheated on me. You haven't hit me. You haven't done anything bad to me. The only thing bad you've done to me is make me laugh, and I pay you back by making you laugh.
Right.
And it took, I can honestly say, after surgery, it took until this week to pull me out of that funk. 2.5, almost 3.5 years I've lived in fear. Do I have my moments? Yes. And that's always going to happen until I really get myself out of it. And we talked about it earlier in the show, leaning on our significant others, leaning on our families to give us that final push over the first finish line. And I say first finish line because there's a whole bunch of challenges we put in front of ourselves as men, because part of it, society heaped them on us.
Mm-hmm.
Society gave us a set of rules we weren't ready for.
Mm-hmm.
Society gave us a set of rules, and we're looking at going, what the hell is this? I'm just getting started here.
Yeah.
True or false?
True. Joey?
Yeah, I mean, all that, and props to you, Snowman, for doing that work. Whatever it took to get you out of that. Like that, I can't imagine that was easy. And so props for doing that.
Thank you.
I think it's really easy for guys to get stuck, and I know I definitely did. Like we talked about like why it's sometimes hard to talk to your wife or something about that. I know, like, I got divorced so 4 years ago, 2022, and going through therapy and looking at stuff. One of the things that I saw was that when my wife was like, "Hey, I want to do this, or this," I would say, "Yes, that sounds like a great idea," but underneath, I'd be like, "There's no way I can do that." Right. I was afraid, that like she's like, "I want to move here. I want to do this." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds good," but underneath, I wasn't willing or able to recognize that fear and and acknowledge that fear and let it, just have a way to bring it up. Because what I'm learning now is, and what I see now is that when you acknowledge the fear, like, I'm not good enough, I suck, they suck, whatever that is, you can let it up, and then you can say, okay, what do my values say to do? And it would help you find a way to take some action. It would help you move forward. But while I was married and, going through the divorce, I didn't know that I could acknowledge that fear. So I kept it down. And that ultimately led to, us, a combination of things, but that contributed to us getting divorced because I didn't know that I could get past that fear. And I think a lot of guys, and it can be a fear, it can be a doubt, it can be a worry, just some sort of something that weighs down your sense of like who I am and what I'm about and how can I apply my best to whatever the situation is.
All of that cripples a man more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You mix in the emotions that we're supposed to keep down, which is BS to me.
Yeah.
With all the fear. I talked about it before. Jody would ask me, "Do you want to go to the store with me?" And I'm like, "No, I want to stay here," because that's me locking myself in a box and not wanting to go out because I'd be so afraid that my body would act up. I'd be so afraid that I'd do something wrong in public, and all I want to do is just celebrate my wife. This has been the week I am getting myself out of that. And you said it, Joey, acknowledging your fear. And the best way for me, this is for me, the best way that I've acknowledged my fears, I said them aloud. Whether it was to myself, whether it was to my wife, I said them aloud. Because one thing that Jody has said to me, I want to live in an RV, I want us to travel the country, and we work remotely. I'm from Chicago. I'm a city boy. And I'm like, man, what the heck is that? What the heck are we going to do in an RV? Now I'm thinking, how fast can I lay my hands on 20 grand so I can go buy us a used RV and get the heck out of here?
Right.
When you say it, you get over it, you work through it. And when you work through it, you embrace the challenge.
Right.
Now I'm like, minimal living and all I need is my equipment and my beauty. Bring it on.
Right. Like I think for me, man, it's second guessing myself. As a man, like sometimes I'm at war with myself, questioning myself whether or not I'm adequate enough. Because society, they would, like you said earlier, like they put these stigmas on us and these pressures, and it's like I'll be busting my ass, and sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not where everybody else expect me to be. So then I'm like, damn, am I inadequate? Right? And then and to add to that, sometimes like I have an abundance amount of empathy, right? But sometimes I feel like maybe sometimes I'm too nice, or maybe I exhibit too much empathy, because people will take your kindness for weakness, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of women that say it's no good men out there, but when you exude that confidence, and when you exude that good man energy, then they say, oh no, you less than a man. You woman like, or you too nice, or you're not masculine enough, right? But then on the flip side, when they get that adverse man, now they criticizing him and saying it's no good men out there. So it's like women also put so much pressure on this, and it's crazy trying to find that balance.
It's a catch-22.
Right.
It's a catch-22, because on one hand we're doubting ourselves because of all of society's rules that have been heaped upon us. We're basically told that we have to be perfect or no one will like us. And then flip side of that coin, you're told by women, oh, you're too nice, you're too confident, you're not supposed to have that kind of confidence, you got to let me in and let me be in charge some kind of way. And when you hear those blunt phrases right there, you're like, wait a minute, who the hell told you that lie? But then start, but then what happens? It starts getting drilled in your head by other women, by other men. Men act the same way. The ego, there you go, Allison. The ego is something else. And for me, unfortunately, it cost me an abusive relationship, because 2015 was the roughest year. Besides that, look, I took the battle with cancer with no problem because I had a support system. 2015, when I was going through mental, emotional, and yes, physical abuse, I had nothing. Seemed like everybody turned away at the same time.
Right.
And when you're on that island alone, you know how scary that is?
It's scary. I can relate to that, because I'm a person that grew up with abandonment issues. I felt demasculated, dehumanized, unwanted, unloved a lot of times in my life. So yeah. And then when you look up and the people that is supposed to be there for you, family, significant others, and they supposed to be there for you, and they're not, or they're criticizing you or degrading you, it's taxing, and it's very exhausting, and it really plays a huge part on your psyche, right? And then when you start saying it's another one, when you talk about your mental health is not good, people shun that, they laugh at that, it's so much stigma around that, and they're like, oh, it's an excuse. And that's one thing, that's one of my pet peeves, when they say mental health is an excuse, because there's people that think that it's the reason why the suicide rate is so high,
especially with men. Especially with men. A lot of people don't realize how high the suicide rate is with men, because they have been tapped down, tapped out, run over, left behind in many ways. Right. When you are left on an island, which is where I was in 2018, you're like, if I walk off this cliff, no one will miss me.
There you go.
For me, fortunately, that's when Dr. K showed up, raced the clock, and yanked me back and said, no, I don't know you yet, but I'm going to need you.
Right. And not to get religious, right? Yeah, I don't know if you guys are religious or not. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but exactly what you just said. I spent the last month saying, if I died right now, nobody would care. Nobody would miss me. That's how unimportant I am. And God, that's true. I felt that way. And I always said I would never step foot in the church. But this past Sunday, I told my brother, I'm like, if you go into church, I'm going. And I went, and I felt renewed going. I'm not going to lie. I felt rejuvenated. I felt replenished. I felt like I was on top of a mountain. It's just so many things that happened during service that I was like, wow, this is amazing. Thoughts that was in my head, the preacher mentioned, just to give you one quick example, I told you I had those thoughts and I was in the dark space in my, the preacher, he could have said, some of y'all, it's some people in here. He could have said that, but instead he said, it's somebody in here that feels like he won't be missed if he was to die right now. And I looked at, I'm like, this is crazy. So it's three things that happened to me during that service. Like, that was like one of the major ones. And I couldn't hold back the tears. The one guy came to ask for my hand. I held his hand, then he gave me a hug, and then those tears just flowed. But God, that's true. I was in a dark space, and I was like, this is it for me, and that's why I say I have nothing to lose but all the gain by going to service, and I took a leap of faith, and now I feel brand new, So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I just wanted to share that because you said sometimes you feel like if I die today, nobody would care, and that's where I was in the past month.
See, but I look at it like you took a step for growth. You're like, I am stuck right now, all the stuff that you got going on, and you looked around and you said, you know what? I think me going to church will help me out. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't know what. You reached out to your brother, you said, and you're like, hey, you're going, so I'm gonna go with you. So I think you put yourself into a growth mindset. You were open to hearing something. My guess is people have been telling you that you would matter a whole bunch of different ways before that day. Like if you look back in your life, people probably said, and I actually know this because in early 2000 teens, I ran a business where we would do tribute videos for people. Like if you want to do a video for your mom, you get 30 or 40 people saying all what they love about her and put it together, and we would show it. And I did videos for really famous people, very average people, everyday moms and dads. And one thing that was 100% across the board is that we as people have no idea the difference that we make in the world. Like I know for sure that I could get 30 or 40 of your people, do a video for you, and they would say stuff that you had no idea the difference that you made. And
now that's a good idea. Now I want somebody to do that for me, but I don't want to be the one to tell them because I'm curious.
You can't really tell them, but
you can.
You can't. You can, but it's a little awkward. You're like, tell me why I'm so great. but
that's what I say. If somebody else do it for me, that'd be good.
With my morning show crew, when I have a bad day, and I can honestly say I've never, ever had this, as long as I've done my morning show, which is now 12 years, I've never had a crew to depend on, never had them lean on me, because for a while I was a one-man gang. And my producer, Shane, who was also one of my best friends, would say, look, if you don't feel like if you don't feel like going on, if you're not up to it, if you're not 100%, don't do it. We need you at full strength. He would tell me that every day. My crew would tell me that every day, and I would tell them the same thing. My friend Allison, who lives in my hometown of Chicago, she would tell me, I can go on, but I have bad allergies. I'm sneezing. I'm coughing. Like, Allison, honey, take the day off. You rest. You get better. And lately, they've been telling me that. And the support, let me put it this way. When a man gets support from the people that are very close to him, even from people that are not close to him, and they give him a good word, there's encouragement right there, and there's strength right there.
Right. That's what Joey was saying before. He was like, he could almost guarantee that it was people during the course of my life that said I mattered. The ironic thing is this. Yeah, I had a lot of people say that I was mattered, but it wasn't the people that I wanted to say. I hear it from, you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, a lot of people told me that, but it wasn't the people that I expected to hear it from. So it kind of went like, it kind of fell to the wayside, for lack of better words. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's another thing that's difficult about humanity and life, and just, we don't give credit. We don't give the flowers to the people that deserve it. Right? We have in our mind who we want in our circle. And sometimes they might not be the right people for our lives. I always tell people, places, and things shape and mold us to who we are. Right? Sometimes the people we want to be there are not the right people. So we got to have the wherewithal to know that.
Yeah. And if you're going down the path of faith, you're going to, maybe God was speaking through those people, but not the people that you thought. And so you were like, no, God, you're not doing it right. I got to hear from this guy, do this guy.
And that's probably why 2025 he humbled me, because that's exactly what happened. I was humbled. I don't want to say I was arrogant, but I was on top. Right, I was up here and couldn't nobody tell me nothing. And I had to endure the hardships and the struggles last year. And now, slowly but surely, things are starting to pick back up. And especially, like, I kid you not, and I went to service, and ever since Sunday, things been in an upward trajectory. You know what I'm saying? So I have to attribute that to Sunday. I have to. Well, because I've been doing things my way for so long, and I've been faced with the same obstacles, right? And now it's like I could breathe a little bit more. Like I'm looking at life through a different lens.
I think one thing too that is really helpful that I found, I got divorced in 2022 and burnt out, I got divorced in 2021, I guess it was, and got, but in 2022 I burnt out. The divorce, my business was struggling. I was living alone. It was post-COVID, all that stuff. And I recovered from it. But one of the things that I think is absolutely critical is that you got to have a recovery plan. Like, Desmond, you're like, you're on top. You got this energy coming. At some point, life is going to happen. Something's going, you're going to wake up. Somebody's going to say something to you, whatever it doesn't matter, right? Car gets stolen. It does not matter what it is. Something is going to happen. And it's in those moments, we need to have a recovery plan. Like
I like that.
I ask myself 6 questions. I say, what can I celebrate about yesterday? That part. What did I learn from that? What's my goal? Then what's the fear? Because as soon as you say a goal, some fears or doubts are going to come up. Some, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. That. So I acknowledge those. And then I say, what do my values say to do? And that's a little bit of a brainstorming. And then I say, what action can I take? And then that gives me, gives me a little baby step that I can do. And I do that in part as a kind of a daily kind of routine to get me going, but it works really well. This is a funny story. I did stand up for a couple months last year. I walked by an open mic night, and I walked in, and it was the worst comedy I'd ever heard. I mean, it was horrible. And I thought, I would not be the worst if I stood up and said something. And so when they said, does anybody else want to go? I raised my hand. I went up and I did, and I got a couple laughs. And I ended up doing it for a couple of months. I'm not real funny, it turns out, but I gave it a try. But there was a day, like after doing it for like 3 or 4 times, I woke up, I went up on stage and completely bombed. Like there was the only sound in the bar was the guy making a drink, like, that was like a horror movie, that was it. And so, I was embarrassed and everything. I went to bed that night just because it's when you bomb in comedy, it's like heartbreaking. You're like, oh, it
is.
And I woke up and it just still into like, what do I do? And I just said, okay, what can I celebrate about yesterday? Well, I got up, what did I learn? You got to learn how to recover from bombing. and I went through the things and I ended up getting, the end result was I got back up on stage and I went. And it and that showed me that like because life is going to happen, it is going to happen. You need a recovery plan, whatever that is. You got to have a plan that that you can use when things don't go well.
When I
it's crazy. I think 1 second, Snowman. I just want to say, I like that. Like I like to be inspired. That was inspiring. So I think every day I'm gonna try to implement that to my daily, routine. Yeah, so I like that. I was gonna write it down, but I could just replay it and just and write it down that way. But
send it to you.
Send it to me also. I want to have that also because that's something I do a lot more now, without writing it down, just saying things out loud. When I did Game 5 of the World Series, this side of my face was in terrible, terrible pain. So what did God decide to throw at me? 2 home runs and 3 pitches. And I got so excited about calling those, but then later on, everything really got swollen. So I had to stop the stream early. And I said to myself before I went to bed, I said, "There's no way I'll be able to make Game 6." Well, lo and behold, I got up and my wife doesn't like baseball. I got up. I said, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to make sure the house is done and everything like that. And my wife decided to throw a knuckleball at me. She says, "You're doing game 6, right?" What? You're doing game 6 of the World Series, right? I hadn't planned. Let me try again. You're doing game 6 of the World Series. And then from a question, it turned into a statement. And from a statement, it turned into preparation. I said, "Baby, I thought you don't like baseball." "I don't, but I like listening to you."
What World Series was that, Snowman?
This one, 25.
Oh, man.
This one. Good. And she's also, I got to give you this funny story. She's also a Colts fan. And one afternoon, I told myself that she's a ninth generation Hoosier. I told myself, she and my mother-in-law went to Kentucky to go to a rabbit show. And I said, okay, they're going to be gone for most of the morning and part of the afternoon. I get a chance to rest. I get a chance to get ready for the 49ers game. This beautiful woman called me and said, "Are you doing the Colts game?" "No." "Well, what's the score at halftime?" "Colts are leading." "You're doing the second half, right?" "I hadn't planned on it." "Well, hurry up and do the second half of the game." Baby, the game is on the radio. It's on Colts radio. This one line broke me when she said, "Babe, we're in Kentucky." Yikes.
Right.
I jumped out of bed. I got set up. I did the rest of the game. Did the 49ers game on top of that. When my wife got home, I was back in bed, exhausted, but laughing my head off.
Right. That's good. I love the continuity, the cohesion between you and your wife. That's dope. I love that.
We're still building it on a daily basis, though.
That's life. It's always a daily routine, not a routine, but it's always a daily practice. Relationships. That's how you make it work. That's how you grow. A lot of people miss that step, or they get complacent after a couple months. It's like, now you're just in it. You gotta always look for something.
As much as Jody makes me laugh, I can't get complacent because she's going to say something crazy and I'm going to be in a fit of laughter again.
That's good.
But I'll say this. I think this is one of the things I know when I got married, this was something that happened to me, is that I stopped growing. Like I kind of I reached the finish line. I got this amazing woman, we're doing stuff. Like I think part of being a guy is progress, is progression.
Yes.
It's like learning and growing. And something that happens when you do get married is it's very easy to slip into, like, I don't want to do too much. I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to do whatever it is. And the irony is probably all the things that you did is why she was attracted to you to begin with. And then at least for me, I stopped. And so I think progress, like, I don't know if you guys saw it, but the half pipe Olympics, the men's half pipe for the Olympics was just today. And they said that the gold medal run from 4 years ago probably would have just barely cracked the top 10 of this year. And it just made me think that, like, you know what, like, we as guys, like, we ought to encourage ourselves, not just to be, say like, hey, good job and all this stuff, but kind of like, hey, where are you progressing? Where are you moving forward? How can I help you take a step? Because it's so easy not to do that once you get into that.
It is.
Now, you're saying for yourself, or you're saying for other men?
Both. I mean, I know I experienced it for sure. I did that for sure. And in talking to guys, it's a pattern that I've seen.
And that's something we need to do more of. And I tell people all the time, fellowship, having that community, that safe space and that safe place, it's out of this world. It's very important, right? Like, that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast, right? I don't get out much, but it allows me to converse with people all across the world. You know what I'm saying? And like-minded people, and you can learn from anybody. So I've learned a lot, and I keep good communication with a lot of people. I stay in contact with a lot of people that's that's guest on my show, and we talk from time to time, and it's amazing. And, because going into it, at first I was like, this probably be the only time I talk to him, but no, like people text me, hey, how you doing? And mental health check-ins, which I love. When anybody that do that, they hold value to me, because that's very important to check on somebody's mental.
You said mental health check-ins. Mental health check-ins. If that don't help men out, I don't know what will, because when men check in with each other, it's just saying, hey, how you doing? You doing all right? You get a boost of energy, and you can carry it through the rest of your day.
It's love. And everybody on God's green earth wants love, right? And men, for some reason, typically be like, you say the word love, and they act all skittish, like, not me. No, I'm too macho. Yeah, not me, though. It's called growth and maturity, though. As we get older, we get more mature, we get more wise, we embrace things like that. But fellowship is something we need to do a lot more of.
Have y'all read? Yeah, I was gonna say, have y'all read The Light We Carry, Michelle Obama's new book, or second book after her big one?
No, I actually wanted to get it, but I haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, she talks a lot about a lot of what she talks about is like overcoming fear and the importance of the way she describes it is having people at your kitchen table. Mm-hmm. And she talked about how she would bring friends in, and she started doing basically some sort of regular time together at Camp David with her lady friends. And she said for one of Barack Obama's birthdays, she organized like 10 of his good buddies to come and have a weekend at Camp David doing whatever you do as president. They're playing basketball and doing different things. But and then that turned into like a regular thing. And she said, I thought it was really powerful. Something I'm like, wow, I got to take this in. It's one thing to have check-ins, which I think is awesome. But I think there's also something about like regular gathering, like, having some ritual to your friendships so that you're like, hey, July 4th, we're all getting together for the barbecue, or, whatever this is, we're coming together. That's something that I think women do, honestly, a little better than guys.
Absolutely.
100%.
And Michelle Obama's book is this really good example of that.
Now, I just want to say this real quick. So, Rodney, he also has a podcast. I had his comment up there a minute ago. He said side-eye, mental health check-ins. Because on his podcast, in the intro, part of the intro, he always do mental health check-ins. So he's one of the ones that I really got that from. But it's other people that, that do mental health check-ins. But yeah, I give him his flowers. Like every intro on his podcast, he always do mental health check-ins, and that holds value to me. So when I start listening to his podcast, it's one thing I say, you know what, maybe I should incorporate it to mine. Which I don't really, but I do check on people's well-being. So
yeah,
thanks for stopping by, Rodney. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rodney. You said it a little bit ago that men are taught not to show affection, especially toward each other, because society will twist it and turn it another way. I had someone ask me recently, did you ever hug your dad or kiss your dad before he passed away? Every chance I got. You kidding me? That's my hero. That before prostate cancer took him in 2007, that was my hero. I'm giving him a hug every chance I get. I'm giving my son a hug every chance I get. That's it for me. People can think whatever the heck they want. My wife teases me all the time. She says, "Well, he's a hugger," but she doesn't mind because she's the same way. And there are guys that are so standoffish when they see me hug another man. I'm like, "What's the problem?"
Yeah.
Don't
pay them no mind.
I don't
pay them no mind.
I don't. I greet people the way I love greeting people, with a hand, especially with men, a handshake and a hug. That's how, how powerful that is to a man. I mean,
powerful.
Forget society's rules. I don't. Right. I've always said this about society's rules. I don't break them, but I bend the hell out of them.
Right. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And like I said, it takes you a long way, man. It's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to ask you guys this question though. Is it misogynistic to feel like every woman needs to be protected?
I protect the women in my family, and that's that. I protect the women who are friends to me and have treated me well over the years, and that's that. If you put yourself in it, my dad always told me, if you put yourself in a situation, you got to get yourself out of that situation. If someone's willing to help you, then that's great. But protecting everyone, good idea to a fault. Because what if you don't get the same in return?
Right. Joey?
Well, I don't think you can. I don't think you try to protect someone with the intention of getting a return.
Right.
I think that would set you up for expectations. I think I look at values. Like my values are connection, curiosity, and fun. And in one of the big things that really kind of opened my eyes and helped me get grounded was 2018 when the Me Too movement happened, and this was when Black Lives Matter kind of came up, much more in the public. Parkland shooting was right at that time, and I woke up one day and I realized that I can't talk to people about values if in a world where there's so much sexism, racism, homophobia, and all those other biases.
Yep.
Because the way I envision is like, imagine me talking to a group of Black women talking about connection and curiosity and fun without acknowledging that I'm this white guy. I just imagine me, that room just not being welcome to me speaking.
Not being receptive to it.
Not being receptive. It's not their fault, but and so in that moment, I was like, you know what? I need to do more work. I need to look at myself, to look at my own biases and different things. I got to do that work and get through that. And then wherever I can to stand up for people to have more connection, curiosity, and fun. And the way I look at it, racism, sexism, biases, all that stuff, it's really hard to have connection, curiosity, or fun when you're experiencing those things, or when you're doing it. When you're being sexist, I don't think you're living true to your values. I think you're based on doing something off of fear. So I obviously you can't protect every woman in the world,
right?
But I think you can stand up and protect a whole heck of a lot more than we give ourselves credit for.
With the experience that I've had over the past 8 years, and people wonder why I continue to live the way that I live, I think this will answer your question. This is my wife.
Right.
And you see the differences between us.
Right.
That alone should tell you what we've been through for 8 years, and we laughed at every single rule in the book.
I have two big moms. One of them's white, so hey, I don't pay that kind of stuff no mind. But
me neither.
When I moved in with her, then I did have to deal with the prejudice and racism for maybe like the first 4 years, maybe even the first 5. And it's every year like putting up Halloween decorations. Used to be 4 cop cars and things of that nature, or the neighbors that's 2 houses down saying, 20 years ago this wouldn't be a thing. I'm like, I so badly wanted to say dummy, yes it would, because it's still the 2000s, but it's an image that I try to uphold, right? I want people to look at me as a businessman, an intellectual, somebody that's positive. So sometimes I'll be wanting to call people out their names. I had to really back and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. So instead, I had to look the neighbors in the eyes and say, you have a good day.
I had to learn to dial it back. I had to learn to dial it back myself. And given my current neighborhood, all I will say is, and I think you all will get the picture, I stick out like a sore thumb.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it'd be like that sometimes.
I'm a city boy in a small town, and I'm loving every bit of it. I love sticking out like a sore thumb. The looks are coming from everywhere. They're looking at me, seeing and hearing, because a lot of folks listen to me on my radio show and they hear me calling my games. They see this black man calling games like his hero, Jim Durham, and the shock on their faces when they hear me, first of all, and then when they meet me. I think you can complete the equation.
Right. I got you. And I can relate, because it's been job interviews, or I go certain places and they already have this perception in their head. They already have, this preconceived notion. And then once I start speaking or engage in certain conversations, I've heard people say, you know what? I didn't take you as a smart guy. Not saying you're not smart. And once I hear that, I'm like, yeah, you thought I was a fool. Just go. You're just tooling yourself, So it is what it is. I live life. I'm all about positivity, and I'm a strong believer that positivity brings positivity.
I had to get to that point, especially after cancer. That positivity brings positivity. I will freely admit now, and I'm not afraid to admit all this stuff anymore. I had to get to that point, and then I had to get back to that point. I got a funny story for y'all. When I lived in North Carolina, and it was my first game at Lewisburg College doing basketball, and a lot of people from out of the state were listening into the broadcast. And I had a couple people saying, we're going to come into Lewisburg if you're doing baseball this year, and we want to meet you. Okay, find me in the booth. Whew. The look on their faces of astonishment when they met me, and they looked at me and that was you calling that game? Yes.
Yeah.
But to their credit and bless their heart, they asked me, who's your favorite baseball announcer? I said, John Rooney. And they said, you just pick the best, don't you? Yeah, I knew where that question was going. But I said, yeah, I just picked the best and the folks who inspired me. Became best of friends after that.
That's always a good thing, man.
Became the best of friends after that. And with the kids, there was a part of me that was afraid. I was thinking, okay, these kids are not going to like me. But then I thought, screw it. I'm here to call a game. I'm going to have fun. And there was one kid named was Noah Madison. And his mom heard me on the stream, said, do you have a nickname for my son? And I responded, I said, who's your son? Noah Madison. I'll think of something. Wouldn't you know it? As soon as I say the mad dog, Noah Madison, he hits a 3-run homer.
It's crazy.
The moment I say that, and his mom, and I can just imagine his mom, in front of the computer in my mind, jumping up and down through the roof.
Right. You was about to say something, Joey? You still there?
Freeze on us?
It looked like he might have froze.
He might have. Yeah, I think Joey froze on us.
Yeah.
Folks, like I said, we've had more technical problems than the Cleveland Browns selecting a quarterback. There Joey.
You go.
Sorry about that. Just following up about this, one of the things I think people who are, that look like me, like it takes some work to dive in to look at your own internal racism and sexism and to do that work. But I just got to say, I think it's pretty much the most transformative work that I've done, and it allows me. It has allowed me to connect with people in ways I never ever. I didn't realize I wasn't connecting. It's just deep in my ability to talk to people, because I'm not worried about hiding that aspect of me, or should I say something or should I not. I'm much more confident in my ability to just express and talk. And I think as a guy, it's really nice because I can just talk to people and end up having great conversations like these all the time at a way that I couldn't have done before I did the work to say, hey, because when you're like, holy shit, I just was racist there. I was, when you look back at your life, you're like, oh, that.
Oh, it froze again. Oh man. I think it's Friday with StreamYards, man. I think
it is Friday the 13th. It is Friday the 13th.
You know what? Yes. Because
I didn't know
we had so much trouble this morning doing the morning show because I do a simulcast.
That is not.
Oh, he's trying to come back.
Yeah, I don't even know if he probably didn't even think he went out.
Am I back?
There you are. There you are.
See,
that's what Friday the 13th thing.
It's Friday. That's it.
No, that's when three guys start talking about sexism and racism, the internet gets all funny and
the internet you know what happens to the internet when three guys intelligent guys come together, no matter what the color, what the race or whatever, and start talking about sexism and racism and every other ism you can think of, the internet gets scared.
Right.
So the internet gets scared. All right.
So I did want to ask this though. What does independent women do to a man's masculinity?
Blows it up.
Like,
For me, now, nothing. Because I got a taste. I got my first taste of that after my dad died. And I had to deal with two of them at the same time, my mother and my sister. And I tell you, they tried every trick in the book to put me back in the box. And I wouldn't let them.
Gotcha. You was about to say, Joey?
Yeah, I think I'll be honest. I think it's a better question to ask yourself. What do you actually want in a relationship? Like I want, I want to have not like the person, not the shape and the age and the size and all that kind of stuff, but more like I want to have a relationship where we travel, where we do this, or we work together, or whatever that is. And you say, this is what I want. And then you start sharing that with people. And the person that wants something similar will step into that. Right. I think if you're afraid, like, oh, if I get an independent woman, if you're basing what you want in a relationship off of a fear, it's just not going to work, just like anything else. Right. But so you get clear on what you want and do that work to be able to say, hey, I want to live here. I want to do these types of things. I want to have this much sex. I want to have this type of family. I want to, whatever that is. And then you start sharing that. And then women will say yes or no. Right. Yeah, I think it's on us to say what we want.
Right. I think for a lot of men, they feel like they're being demasculated because the woman is so independent and, she's making more money than he is. That turns a lot of guys off. I know so many guys that they'll say that's their reason or justification for stepping out in a relationship. It's because of that fear. Now, they don't openly say they fear, but that's what it is. A woman making more money than a man makes a man feel less than a man, make him feel inadequate a lot of the times. But I just look at things differently, man. Like, I don't think it was ever a point in my life that I felt that way. I was okay with not making the most money. The only time it affected me is when a woman throws it in your face. Oh, I did this, and that. You only did that. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the women that have treated me like that or said those things, I looked at it like they're just not a good fit for me anyways. If they're saying this stuff now, right, the message is clear. They're in this relationship for the wrong reasons,
I get that. I get that because very easily wife could have said no to my wife, I want all this. Okay. You know what? I'll share a funny note. Jody said that to me, and then I said it back to her, and we decided, you know what? Well, this is the thing with Jody and myself. We decided to take every bad thing that was said to us in previous relationships, stitch them all together, and turn them into a trampoline. That's the metaphor that we're using. We turn them all into a trampoline and bounce back from it.
I like that.
And aside of that, we get so many laughs, especially here's the first running joke between Jody and I is the house rules. Because both of us have been in relationships where the person that was supposedly in charge created all the rules. So Jody came up with these 5 house rules. The first one, to quote her, I'm always right. And when I started cracking up laughing when she said that, she says, I was messing around when I created that. I said, honey, I already know, which led to the second rule, which made me laugh even harder when she said, you have the penis, therefore everything is your fault, which made me fall out laughing. Third rule is the dog's an idiot. And poor Lucy, bless her heart, she's 13 years old. But yeah, we've seen idiotic things from our dog, but that's my Lucy. The fourth rule, chocolate fixes everything. And the fifth rule is the answer is always the Indianapolis Colts. And I said, honey, I have to bend that rule. She says, why is that? Because the answer is not always the Colts, because sometimes the answers can be the San Francisco 49ers, especially when we play each other. She says, that's not going to happen. Oh, yeah. Watch this. This past year when the Niners played the Colts, I was expecting her to be on stream with me, but she couldn't make it. Bless her heart. She was so tired when she got in. And she came in here and she saw me setting up and everything. She says, baby, I'm not going to make it. What time's the game? 8:15. I'm not even gonna make it to 7 o'clock. And I'm sitting here cracking up. But when we came up with those house rules, it's one of the best running jokes we have in our household.
Got you. Now, I just want to add to what I was saying before when I was saying how some men feel inadequate when a woman makes more than them. I mean, I never felt that way because I felt like if you're eating, I'm eating, you contributing, I'm contributing, we both win, right? Because if you go into the relationship with the right intentions, then whatever she's making is yours anyways. Whatever you're making is hers. You know what I'm saying? So so both incomes, whatever you contributing, whatever you bring to the table, it's for both of you guys.
Yeah, but I also think there's some awareness to that. Like if she's bringing up money issues, there's more going on than money.
Right.
Something else.
Absolutely.
And that's where having the awareness, having to be able to have the conversation, to be able to say, hey, where did I, maybe I did this and this, but I fell short here. I wasn't great at that. I was always, when I was married, I was always trying to say, hey, I did this, I did that, kind of prove that that I've done enough. And I didn't have the courage and the confidence in myself to say, you know what, hey, I did this, but I fell short here. And just acknowledging that kind of stuff. Like my ex and I, we have now a really good relationship in terms of co-parenting our son, taking care of our son. And I know for me, it's not for everyone, but for me, being able to take and acknowledge where I fall short has been really helpful in that relationship. Because rather than trying to hide it, rather than trying to hide that stuff, acknowledging it, take a breath, and then go do whatever it is that's got to be done.
Gotcha. Now, as a man, do you feel like you should be protected by your woman?
Protected? I never think that. I mean, I haven't had that thought. If she, let's see here, protected. I don't think. I think I would. What I love most is like being acknowledged or celebrated or honored. I like that more than protected. My sense is that most women, or I don't know. I guess I never think about that. So I can't tell you.
Now I ask that because we talk about manhood, masculinity, right? And I know a lot of men from right off bat they'll be like, "Oh, protected. I don't need to be protected by no woman, right?" But like, I feel like everybody need to protect it, whether that's emotionally or mentally. You know what I'm saying? We all have our lapse in judgment, or our we go through dark times, or whatever the case may be. We all fall, and when we fall, we all need somebody that's going to pick us back up. So for me, I do feel like as a man that I need to also be protected by my significant other.
So this is one thing that I've started thinking about is it's really hard if your wife is, or your girlfriend, or your partner is your person that you go to for pick me up all the time. Right. That puts a ton of pressure on her. And she may not be trained in that. She may not have the ability to actually do that on an ongoing basis. So I think one of the things that is really helpful for guys is you got your guy friends or a coach or a therapist or something that you, mm-hmm. I mean, you're always, it's not like you can be perfect all the time, but more often than not, you want to have a way to pick yourself up outside the relationship so you can be your best in the relationship.
Mm.
And
I got you.
You know what I mean? Because you would hate it if every time she was upset, all she did is come to you and dump about how horrible her day is.
You know what's crazy? You're absolutely right. And a lot of men lie and say, "Oh no, I expect my wife to do that or my significant other," and I'm gonna call bullshit every time. Because this thing, we both humans. I'm going through what I'm going through. Like if I'm going through something and you just like bombard me with all your burdens and your troubles nonstop, it's too much. So that's why it's good to fellowship. That's why it's good to have that community where you can speak to other people. You know what I'm saying? But every once in a while, or let's say 75% of the time, I'm okay with it. But 100% of the time, it's too much. Too much of anything is too much.
Yep.
Now, Snowman, the question I had asked in your absence was, as a man, do you feel like you should be protected by your woman?
Yes. Hell yeah.
And how so?
How about when people say men have, listen, we are criticized for our egos a lot. Oh, men have too big egos. How about what brought us there? How about what happened in our past that got us to the point where our ego has to overcome everything, where we have to overcome everything?
Right.
Having that woman be your safe space, like this pretty lady behind me that's working her tail off. You know what you know what kind of confidence that gives to a man? So, as I said earlier, I protect her and the women in my family, and that's that. She does the same for me.
Right.
Think
It
about it,
reminds you
because
that you guys are a team, right? Like it
yep,
makes you feel, yeah, I
and
got you.
that's why when a woman feels like she is a part of a team with her man, it gives her all the confidence in the world, just like the reverse does.
Right. Now, Joey, would you say that growing up, like in your younger days, were you, let me see how I want to say this. Were you raised out of love or raised out of survival?
I was raised so I was like the only white kid in Detroit on my block in Detroit. Like I was like that kid, and you know, and we grew up in downtown Detroit.
Gee, I know how you felt as a kid because I'm feeling it now.
Yeah. And so like I never thought, like, I knew my parents loved me, but like I wasn't. See here. I'm trying to think. I guess maybe a little bit out of survival to like be yourself, to like be your best was kind of there, and and we moved. So like I felt alone a lot. I'll say that because I was I had brothers and sisters. I have a brother and a sister, and they were super close. There's three of us, so like they were super close, but I was kind of an outlier. So I had disconnect in there. I'll say this: the vast majority of my awareness and understanding and be able to connect and even talk about love or all that kind of stuff has developed in the past. I'm 55 now. It's developed in the past 10 years. It's been the work I've done recently, much more than anything that happened earlier that impacted me.
No, is that a cat?
This is Binks. One of the three cats we have. Yep, this is a cat, and this is Binks.
Oh man, you got three cats and a dog.
Yep, I got pets all over the place.
I mean, I have 4 dogs, so.
So you understand what happens right now, because sometimes this one, while I'm on air, loves to jump in my lap.
Got you. What about for you, Snowman?
Repeat the question, please, because I heard it, and then Binks showed up.
I said, would you say that you was raised out of survival or raised out of love?
Both. More love than survival, because as I said, Dad can sense the tension in the house, and they'll do something goofy to break us up, and then Mom will come with a zinger out of nowhere and have everybody laughing. And then I would hear my mom and dad have a conversation about a subject that should be easy, but it turns into 40 minutes of laughter because I hear the exchange between them. They both cooked, they both cleaned, they both taught my sister and I what responsibility is and should be. You know, my parents were awesome. Yes. Did I have my moments? Oh yeah. I played a practical joke at my sister and I paid for it.
Yes. See, I know a lot of times, you know, like the societal stigmas can make it hard. So when we put pressures on ourselves, sometimes when we have our kids, it's out of survival because we're trying to live up to societal expectations. And then, you know, for me, like, you know, my parents weren't together. You know, my mom was young when she had kids. She had, 5 of us. My dad was an off and on drug addict. So, there was that disarray in the house, that was that detachment, and that's part of why I say I suffer from abandonment issues and stuff like that. So for me, it was more so survival. My father was dealing with his issues. My mom was still trying to come into her own. She was trying to be the best version of herself as a mother, as a parent, but it was hard for her, because my mom was pregnant at 15, 16, 22, 25, 26. So a lot of those years where she should have been growing and developing was not there because she was stuck in the house. She was confined to the house trying to embark on this new journey, raising kids by herself. So that was difficult. So for me, I would think, I think I was raised out of survival more so out of love because my mom worked 2 jobs most of my adolescent years, and she wasn't there, right? She wasn't present. Put it that way, because it's ironically, I always felt like she was there. I always felt like she was present when she wasn't. She was like we might see each other for an hour, something like that. So, but one thing about my mother is she always made it count on her days off. Any opportunity she had to spend with us, she made it count, and that's important. So that's one of the things in my adulthood I instill in my kids. Like I gotta be present. I gotta be active. So that's important, and I never want my kids to feel the impact or the backlash or the trials and tribulations or the harsh realities of certain things in life. So I want better for my kids, right? Like. For me, like I've heard this a lot during my life, and I often say that like I work hard, and I'm going to work hard as I can, so my kids don't have to work that hard.
Right.
I want to work for my kids and give them more than my parents was able to get for myself. And I think, like I said, I heard that from a lot of parents, and that's my mindset on things.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want to leave a legacy for my family. I'm not going anywhere yet, but when that time does come, I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want them to know, hey, Dad went through all of this, still came out the other side, and built even more.
Yeah.
Perseverance, resilience, never give up, never say die.
That grit, that tenacity,
crazy as all get out, can produce a laugh out of you. A kid at heart. That's what I always describe myself as. I've been a kid at heart.
I think the irony is that at least my son, the idea of me saying something or doing something and having an impact on him is because he's like, Dad, I can't listen to you. You're my dad. Of course I can't listen to you.
Right. As they get older, they'll learn. They'll learn.
Hey, I had to learn. Yeah. I had to learn. And the brood that I have now, I met through marriage. Sonia, Dakota, mother, daughter, Cheyenne, and Sam. Dakota called me one day. My son called me one day and he said, can I take you to breakfast? I got to talk to you about something. Like, wait, what? And I thought this kid was a loner because he had, bless his heart, had been through so much before I showed up. I said, yeah, you can take me to breakfast. The connection I felt with him, unloading on me with all of his girl troubles, is something I did with my dad all the time, and that made me feel like a dad. And now, when I see him and I give him a big fat hug, he returns it.
Right?
Has it taken a process? Of course, because the kid's been through a lot. All my kids have been through a lot. But am I going to hug them the same way my dad and mom hug me? You better believe I am. You better believe that.
So, why do you think that maturity is such a hard process for a lot of men?
Because we never stop the process. That's easy. We never stop the process.
Yeah, and anytime you it always occurred to me that like whenever I had a new level of relationship, whether it'd be, you go from dating to like living together, then engaged, and then married, and then having a kid, and so on. Every time you went to a new level of something, there'd be new arguments. Yep. It wouldn't matter how much you could plan. You could try to plan for that, but you would just have new arguments. And that's where I think like the idea of being, I think one of the most important things we can say for men is like, look, it's not about achieving manhood. It's about growth, constant inquiry. How, what did I say that I mean, just, I'm sure you guys have done it, right? Like I remember when we got engaged and we started planning our wedding, we had this massive argument over the announcements. Because we would walk into a store and I'm like, okay, and they're like, well, what do you want? I'm like, well, just show me 3 or 4 and we'll choose the one and we'll go. And I'm like, well, what do you want? She's like, I don't know. I gotta look at them all.
And there's the thing.
We're like, it was like, and if I had looked at it at that time, I would have recognized that we just do things differently. But like we had huge arguments about announcements. And that was something that I never, ever could have thought about before we got engaged. And so I think it's the idea of recognizing the need for growth, embracing that growth, recognizing when you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is way out of my league, or something new, and then going from there.
Tell you something that, and I know we're getting close to time here. I'll tell you something my wife offered me that I've never had before in a relationship. 2 things: a voice and a choice. When I was offered those 2 things, and I still have these issues today that I'm slowly working through. When she would ask me, what's your opinion on this, or this, I'd freeze like a deer in headlights. Why? Because men are never in relationships, for the most part, offered that. They're not given a choice. They're not given a voice in the relationship. They're not given a chance to state their opinion. It's either this way or the highway. When I met Jody, and the first time we went out to eat somewhere, she looked at me and says, so where do you want to eat? I froze because I was doing a game at Northern Illinois. And the first thing that, actually, when I met Jody, I was homeless and drove up to DeKalb to cover the game. And she said, is there anything you need? Yeah, some clothes would be nice. In particular, some underwear, because I'm going through some things right now. Did it shock the daylights out of her? Yeah, but that was one of the first times I was allowed and able to be honest with what I needed. Because how often are men asked by the woman in their relationship, what do you need? Right. Forget everything else. This is us right here, right now. From this point forward, what do you need?
But that also takes something to actually be honest in that answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think like that's a hard thing. So props to you for being straight about that.
Absolutely. It's taken a bit for me to get back to it, especially after surgery and being on chemo and my brain being fogged out for about 2.5 years. But I'm back to it. I'm back to being who I am.
That's awesome. And just keep pushing, man. So I do want to say, it's been an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have both of you on my platform today. Hold on, let me see what this is. Yeah. So, but that's going to conclude today's episode. We hope everybody that viewed it enjoyed it. Just make sure you tune into next week's episodes. The one episode I want to have next week is centered around Women's History Month. And yes, I know Women's History Month is March, but I'm having that episode next week. And then I'll have another episode based on love, trust, and commitment in relationships. So, again, I hope people gained or found value in this episode. Continue to like, share, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe. And that's it. Any final words before we close out?
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Thank you for this fellowship. I truly am proud of both you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for a great time. This is really not what I expected. Like totally awesome.
Appreciate it. Like I said, you're more than welcome to be on any other episodes down the line. We can stay connected if you like. But enjoy the rest of your day and be blessed.
Peace out.